Hi, Dyslexic Genius here. I'm going to start the reassembly of the Edison GEM, and I'm going to go through the whole process for you, and I'm going to show you how this works. We have the motor. I've put the gear on, and I've put the pulley on. On the gear, it didn't want to slip back on smoothly, so I re-reamed it at 1/8 of an inch. But first, I checked it with my vernier calipers right here to make sure it was 0.125, and then I re-reamed it, and then it slid on easier because we're going to have to move the gear and the pulley in and out for adjustment later. So some of the stuff's going to be done, and then later we're going to come back to it in the other videos. So to start the assembly, we're going to insert the speed control, which is this shaft, that knob, and this spring. This is threaded at this end, and this has a slot at this end for assembly. The only thing we need to oil is just the end of this gear, these threads right here. So I have my little oiler. I'm going to do that. Put a little down. There we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the speed control side. We have this little piece here. We're on the right side as you're facing the machine. We're going to insert that. We're going to put the spring on the shaft. We're going to put it over. Let's tilt it over for you. Now the shaft's coming through. We'll put the spring in. And now this is what holds the governor speed adjustment felt. I've pre-oiled that, but this shaft right here has a hole through it for the threads. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring it around so it all lines up. This gets a little tricky. You kind of move the shaft and the speed control here all together. Now what we will do is we will insert a screwdriver on the speed control, and we will just wind this baby in. Once you get a little tension on it, you're going to want to watch. This is on, this is play, this is stop. So we want to have it here on play. And we're just going to bring this arm back, this one here, back in for assembly. Right here. That should be good. Yep, a lot of tension. Now you can see it move. Play, stop. Play, stop. We're having to have it on play. Now what we're going to do is we're going to insert the winding crank shaft with spring and collar. We're going to oil this pinion. Just a drop of STP, because this thing will never get oiled again the rest of its life. Because this pinion fits into this hole. We're going to slide the spring and collar in the hole where the crank goes all the way over. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the motor in, because we know winding crank side hole right here goes this way. We're going to set the motor in just like that. Now I'm going to take my aligning tool and I've lined it right there.
Now, what's an aligning tool? And what do you use
This is to line the holes up with. What we're going to do is we have the 4 screws that hold the motor, but I have the 2 screws that hold the base plate in, and these are longer. These are both the same thread, so we're just going to oil one. You got to kind of roll it around and line up a hole.
Now you're putting the longer screws in just to hold it in place?
I'm using this to align it because you're going to need one in the back, because the motor is going to be at an angle when you tighten these first two screws up. Now you see I have that hole aligned.
Yes.
Now I'm going to use a real screw. Now you're going to look down at the top and you're going to use the alignment tool. And you see how I brought this one over? This hole's ready to go. We're going to put this screw in.
But that's a base screw again?
Base screw, we're putting the base screw in. So I have base screw here and here.
Okay, and that's just to hold it in place while you put in the correct screws.
Yep. Now that hole's aligned.
Okay.
Now we're going to put this screw in. This is the easy way to do this. And trust me, it took me years to figure this out. I used to fight them all the time. I'm going to tighten that one up. I'm going to tighten this one up. So now I have 2 motor mount screws and 2 base screws. Yes, it does get a little oily on top. Now we'll take this one out. You see how I oil everything going in?
And why do you oil the screws?
Because 100 years from now, somebody's going to take it apart and I go, oh, good. Whoever rebuilt this thing oiled the screws, and I'm not fighting rusty old screws, and it helps stop the rust. Now we're going to take the last base screw out.
That was just holding the motor in place.
Mm-hmm. And you want to oil every screw you put in. And it just takes a little dab at the end. That's why I use that thing. And when you put the screws in, you want to push down on your screwdriver so it doesn't screw out or mess up the thread, the slot. Now we're going to turn this over. We're going to pull this shaft back. We're going to insert the spring. And now we're going to try to stab the hole. There we go. Now you'll turn this around till that has that. You line the hole up in that set screw. Sometimes I wish I had another arm
Or at least a second eye.
or a second eye. Now what you're going to do is screw that screw down. You're going to reach in on the collar and feel it that it's bottoming out in that hole. And I pre-oiled that before assembly. There we go. Oh, look at that. That's how you assemble the motor. And next we will start the top end in the next video, and that's my tip for the day.